to another edition of On The Plus Side with myself, Sharon D. And today I am going to introduce you to a wonderful woman who I have met on the journey of writing the Love Thy Body Real Life Stories book, a collaboration. And this lady is in the first chapter of the book. So if you've got it, then this is the phase to the story. Allie, you are so welcome. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you for having me. It's lovely to be on and chatting to you.
It's amazing to actually meet, because we've been talking backwards and forwards online, so it's great to do this. Allie, your story really basically kind of starts from motherhood, from being pregnant. Can you tell us your journey?
So my first pregnancy was a fairly simple pregnancy, fairly straightforward. Natural birth. We were out of the hospital in 24 hours, and I kind of thought that was how it was going to go. But I'd made my mind up right from the start, reading all the books and everything like that I was going to breastfeed. That was, in my opinion, that was the best thing to do. I'd read all the information, all the things that would help with the baby, and what benefits they would get from that. And within 24 hours, it was very clear that it was so difficult for me. I found it excruciating. And that really affected me, for over a week. I kind of battled on with it. I tried everything. I tried creams, shields. I asked the midwives, and they sort of said, yes, you're doing it correctly. But the pain just didn't stop. It literally made my toes curl every minute that he was latched on. And I just found it so hard, because there was that feeling of, I don't want to feed my own child. And that I was failing, my body was failing. Why couldn't I do it? That other people, I should be able to do this. And also those anxieties of he wasn't going to get what all those books said he was going to benefit from without the breastfeeding.
Can I just stop you there and ask you, Allie, if someone is in that situation right now, sorry, excuse me, if someone has put pressure on themselves to breastfeed, have just thought that because they've seen their mums do it, that it's naturally going to happen, or because they've read the benefits of breastfeeding in the books, if they've put that much pressure on themselves and it's not working, what would be your advice for them right now in this moment?
I would say definitely reach out to your health visitor, and they can put you in touch with some feeding clinics. Reach out, there's different groups on Facebook and things like that. So there is support out there. One of the things I found was, as I say, I ended up with mastitis, so my supply dried up. So then we had to move to formula, but still I carried on trying, and I went to those clinics. And at some point, I would say as well, check in with how it's affecting you mentally, because it got to the point where it was affecting me. I had to make the decision to say, right, I've got to let this go now. And I still, to this day, struggle sometimes with that. But interestingly, when I've just had a baby in May as well, and I made the decision right from the start with Tilly that I would not be breastfeeding at all. I wasn't going to try, because I knew if I tried and I found the same experience, I would feel the same way. I would start to go down that route of I'm failing and my body's let me down, and for me, it made me feel like not being able to breastfeed, because that's something naturally as a mother I should be able to do, that maybe naturally I wasn't going to be a good mother at all. And that kind of then really affected everything, really. Made me very anxious, made me question all my decisions, question everything, what I wore, if I tried to go to mum groups, what clothes do I wear to be a good mom? Do I make an effort, but then does that look like I've left my baby to cry while I'm making an effort? Or do I go in casuals, but then that looks like I'm disorganized? It's kind of that, I sort of was judging everything I did based on this thing of, do I look like a good mom? And now I look back and I think, what a shame, because I've missed out on so many wonderful things because I was so busy worrying about what other people thought of me and whether I was doing a good job or not. So I would say definitely check in as well. And if it is affecting you mentally, again, you know, go for the help as early as possible, because that is part of self-care. You know, asking for help when you need it is part of loving yourself and recognizing, actually, you know, I can't do this on my own. So that would be my advice.
Yeah, definitely, because there is pressure there. I mean, I thought that I knew that my mum, our cultural background, she'd always talk about back in Trinidad how the children were fed till they were walking around and self-serving themselves with their mums, you know, they were fed. And I believed that, and I thought that's what I should do. And, you know, it didn't occur to me. But after I had my first child, I was in a conversation with my mom, and I discovered that she had fed me for, she started off by saying 2 weeks, then it went to 2 days, then it was she tried. And I felt so sorry for her, because I thought maybe she had passed on this. I'm glad she passed it on to me, but she must have felt such a fraud herself by talking about this. And the truth is, I didn't know any different. I didn't know if I was breast or bottle fed. I mean, only from what I was told.
Yeah.
I didn't know any different. It didn't affect me.
Yeah. But I think there's a lot of pressure anyway. I mean, I remember when I was pregnant with Tilly, this time, that I got all the books when you go for your scans, and it was talking about feeding the baby, and all it spoke about was the benefits of breastfeeding, which I completely understand. You know, if I had a choice again, I'd breastfeed, because all the research and things points to it being, you know, beneficial for the baby. But I remember feeling quite angry, because I was like, what about people like me that read that and then can't breastfeed? Mentally, that is quite a hard thing to deal with. So yeah, I think there is, like you say, there's a lot of pressure. And even as someone that struggled to breastfeed, you still kind of, like you say with your mom, probably have this thing that it is for the best and people should do it if they can, and that kind of thing. Whereas now, having made the choice with my third baby, I kind of say it's about having that control. I think that's the thing I found hard, was that I didn't have any control over my body. I couldn't do it, and I felt that I was failing. Whereas this time I made the decision, I'm in control, I'm not going to try, and I've been a lot happier because of it. So I would say definitely take notice of how you're coping mentally, and if it is affecting you, you know, happy mom, happy baby, as they say. So if it's affecting you mentally,
yeah, and
it might be time to let go.
It's the language that we use. I mean, I've heard you say there that you couldn't feed your own baby, but you could, because your baby survived. Your baby was being fed. And
yeah,
I think
and fed is fed.
and when we have this language around that, I'm not feeding my own baby, well, you know, your baby's being fed, you are feeding your baby, otherwise your baby wouldn't be here. So the story doesn't end the whole subject of breastfeeding, which we could fill the show with ourselves anyway. The story doesn't end there. What happened next?
So then in 2016, I then fell pregnant with my second child, my daughter Chloe, and everything was going fine. We found out we were having a little girl this time. And then at about 28 weeks, I noticed that her movements didn't feel quite right. So I rang the hospital, and they said, you know, lay down on your left side, see whether after an hour you still feel the same way. And it still didn't feel right. So I had someone look after my son, and I went to the hospital. And I was there for 2 hours attached to one of the CTG machines, and she didn't meet the criteria. So I don't know if you know how CTG machines work, but they just basically, they monitor the baby's movements and heart rate and things like that. And there's a set criteria that tells them if the baby's healthy. And she was attached for 2 hours, as I say, and it didn't meet that criteria. So they decided to admit me to hospital. And then the next morning I went for scans, and they found that she was quite a poorly baby. She had something called hydrops fetalis, which is fluid in the body, basically. And that's a sign that something else is going on. So they didn't know whether it was an infection. They didn't know whether it was some kind of genetic condition. They weren't sure. And obviously at the time, being 28 weeks, it was too early to do anything, you know, it was a case of wait and see. So we had scan after scan. I had, you know, blood tests, amniocentesis, hope I pronounced that right, and, you know, all that kind of thing. I also got polyhydramnios, which is excess amniotic fluid. So by 33 weeks, my bump was like a basketball. It was completely rock hard. Couldn't feel any of her movements at all, which obviously, because of her being so poorly, the only way to know that she was okay, that she wasn't deteriorating, was through her movements. So it was kind of, the pressure was on me to monitor her and make sure she was okay, but I couldn't feel a thing. So I ended up being admitted to hospital for monitoring. And then about 3-4 days later, they noticed that her heart rate was doing sort of crazy things and it just very erratic. And they found that she was turning anemic. So it was a case of ring your husband, you're going to have a baby in the next half an hour. So yeah, that was quite stressful. Straight down to the theatre, and we'd had meetings. We knew that we were told from the start that she might not survive the pregnancy. We were told she might not survive very long after birth, because they didn't know what was the cause on this. So yeah, we didn't know what was around the corner for us, really. But she has always been a fighter, my little Chloe. So they sort of whisked her off straight away. And she was born with 3 of her limbs were very swollen and black in colour. So her tummy was very swollen with the excess fluid. She had to have a stomach drain put in. She did scream on her own, which is, you know, we were told straight from the start that she's quite strong in herself to do that. Obviously, she was 6 weeks early as well. So that was really good. But she had to have a ventilator put in. She had to have 2 blood transfusions. She, you know, so it was, yeah, it was quite scary. And for those first few hours, we were told by practically everyone that worked there that no one had ever seen it before. You know, I had nurses that had worked there for 30 years in neonatal and had never seen anything like my daughter, kind of thing. And that brought with it its own sense of responsibility, you know, that I'd grown her, and you know, I remember feeling this feeling of, oh my gosh, what have I done, kind of thing, you know, because I felt that I had caused it in some way. Yeah, there were different meetings. There were, you know, she then tried, she came off the ventilator, so they were able to start feeding through an NG tube. And again, I was determined, breast milk. So I was expressing, and they were feeding her the breast milk, and within 48 hours of starting breast milk, she started to go poorly again. She started being sick, she started swelling, and she ended up having to go back on the ventilator. She ended up having another stomach drain put in. We were back to not being able to hold her and things like that. And again, nobody could understand what was going on at all. I remember at the time there was, you know, the concentration was on her limbs because that was in front of us. But there was also talk that she had conjugated jaundice, which is to do with the liver, but it isn't the type of jaundice that you can break down with the lighting. So it was a case of there's not anything we can do for it. We've just got to try and work out what's causing it. You know, and we had tough conversations. There were tough conversations with doctors telling me that she may never walk, that she, you know, they didn't know what the future held and things like that, and they couldn't work out what was causing the liver issues, which they suspect now. They thought it was probably a line that was put in when she was born, which is, you know, she was very swollen. It's a complication that can happen, but it has to be done. So, you know, it's one of those things. So yeah, so we went through that. I remember sitting in, you know, doctors' rounds and kind of trying to find out what was going on. And she ended up being referred for a liver to Birmingham Children's Hospital and for a limbs to Great Ormond Street Hospital. And, you know, so she's under 3 different hospitals, and it's yeah. So they stopped the breast milk. They worked out that it was fats that was causing the problem for her, so they put her on special milk, and she started to improve. And then about 6 weeks later, they tried breast milk again, and I tried breastfeeding again. But again, found it really painful, even with the feeding specialist there. And she also started to swell slightly again. They're not sure if it was anything in the breast milk, you know. It would be quite unusual if it was, but it seemed, you know, coincidental almost that it was happening. So we decided to stop breastfeeding again. And again, there was that thing of, is it me? Is it something in me that has caused this, because she seems to be reacting to me, kind of thing. But I would say at the time, you just kind of get on with it and you just carry on. And it was afterwards, when she came home after 9 weeks, that it started to sink in, and it started I suppose the anger started, the anxiety, the worry about what had caused it, what is going on. And I just remember being really angry with everything and everyone, especially myself. And I just wanted other people to put me first, and other people to, you know, prioritize me and tell me how fantastic I was and things, because I couldn't do it. I couldn't, because I felt to blame for what had gone on, really. And that anxiety is there still. I still struggle, you know. I'm just coming to the end of a second round of CBT. I had a first round of CBT just after Chloe was born. And then when I was pregnant with Tilly, I noticed that it was getting worse. My hand washing and things like that, intrusive thoughts, things of seeing your children with wires, and, you know, things that I would have seen Chloe go through in neonatal were coming back. But almost like, if I don't cook their dinner properly all the way through, are they going to end up in that situation? If I don't wash my hands and something's on there, are they going to end up in that situation? So again, there come a point when I was pregnant with Tilly where I just thought, but I need to go and get help again, kind of thing. And
CBT, for people that are watching that might not know, is cognitive behaviour therapy.
Yes.
And yeah, it's basically, you know, it sounds like, you know, you needed control. That's what you needed, because the control was taken away from you before.
Exactly.
Not your fault. I mean, I remember losing a baby, and during like having the baby, I remember thinking, why can't I just hold this baby in? Like, my body, my body was giving birth, but I was like, but it's not time yet. How can I not control it? Like, why am I doing this wrong? And it's irrational, because you can internalize these things as your fault, because you're the responsible one for this life. You're the one who's, you know. So there is help out there, whether it's CBT or anything. The main thing is to reach out and talk. And during this time, more than any time with COVID, I know I bring it up, but it's here. But it's so important to reach out. Yeah. So, an update first before we move on to the baby number 3. An update on baby number 2, please, because I know, because I saw her as a gorgeous picture.
She's doing amazingly. You know, for a baby, as I say, when she was 2 weeks old, they told me that she may never walk. She now goes to ballet. She runs and jumps and will not stay still for 1 minute. She is a complete, I nickname her Firecracker, because she is all over the place. And she is by far the strongest little girl that I know. And she will not take no for an answer. She knows what she wants and she will get it. So she's doing amazing. And I always, you know, as frustrating sometimes as a parent that spirit can be, at the same time, I know that spirit is, you know, part of what got her through all that experience and things. So I'm grateful for it at the same time every day. So,
so bring on pregnancy number 3. Sorry to rush through this, just trying to fit it all in one session is huge. Bringing pregnancy number 3. You'd already put yourself and been put through the mill with pregnancy 1, 2, now 3. How was you feeling then?
So pregnancy 3, obviously I was monitored a lot, and everything seemed to be fine. Everything seemed to be going okay. She, you know, there was no fluid. Everything seemed to be on track. And we'd been told that what happened with Chloe was something that was spontaneous when she was forming, and not something to do with us. And so the likelihood of it happening again was no different to it happening to anybody else, really. So yeah, everything seemed to be going fine. I got to 40 weeks, I got to 41 weeks. Then by 41 plus 2, her movement declined again slightly. So I went in, and the decision was made to do another emergency section rather than try to induce or anything like that. And at first everything seemed fine, and then we got to recovery, and the midwife said, hold on a minute, that foot looks slightly larger than the other foot. And then that progressed to that leg looks slightly larger than the other leg. And we were right back there again with consultants and everyone, you know, looking, and we had to be transferred. And obviously this was May, so this was in the middle of COVID as well. So end of recovery, my husband had to go, and that was it. I wasn't able to see him again. We had to be transferred hospitals, but in separate ambulances. So she was taken, and then I was taken. And when I got to the other hospital, she was already down to have a scan. They wanted to get her scanned and just check there was no obstructions or anything like that causing it. But I mean, I knew, I don't know if you call it mother instincts or just experience, I could see the similarities straight away between both the girls. And I just remember going straight back, because I'd done such a lot of work between having Chloe and Tilly, and I'd started getting to that point of not blaming myself and realizing it was just one of those things. And actually, maybe there was a reason why she was mine, and that's because I'm the best person for the job, kind of thing. And I started to build that kind of relationship with myself physically. I'd started running. I'd started taking pictures, you know, if I had an outfit on that I felt particularly comfortable in, or, you know, felt was me, I would take a photograph, and that would go into a little folder so I could look there when I was having a bit of a down day. And suddenly in the hospital, I was straight back there again to, you know, within 24 hours of one day worshipping my body for having this child. The next day it was, you know, some pretty nasty stuff I was saying to myself that I would never say to anyone that's had a baby 24 hours before, or anyone in general. You know, it was, you know, you look disgusting, look at that stomach. And again, it was that thing of stopping, checking in with myself, and realizing this wasn't about my body. This was about how I was feeling about what was going on. And but I think because I knew how to make those positive connections, I'd learned that already, I could do that quicker this time. So I very quickly, too quickly, tried to get back into some of those old habits. But yeah, there was definitely a thing of, if my body looks strong, I look strong, and I look like I'm coping mentally, which I would say look out for that as well, because I put pressure on myself to get back to running too quick, and things like that. And I know that was just to cover up mentally how I was feeling. So, you know, I mean, I said on the book, connection is kind of my word. And I think that's, for me, that's where it all comes from. It's that thing of connecting with yourself and working out exactly what's going on. And from there is where you get things like acceptance and forgiveness and that kind of thing. Having that connection in the first place is key, I would say.
Yeah, and I mean, you saw the signs before, so it was great that you were able to be like, aha, I know what's happening here, and you connected the dots literally to understand what was happening. Your story is incredible, and I'm lost for words in 15 minutes to ask more, because I know I could talk to you forever. Allie, you are here now for people that are going through experiences. I mean, you've covered so many experiences. I think all in, you know, in motherhood, we do make a checklist, we do second guess, we do compare, we do say, are we good enough? We do kind of want to be the slight alpha mother that's like ruling the world, and, you know, and I think when we're honest, next to your word connection, I'm going to squeeze in honesty, because if we're honest with how we're feeling, honest with ourselves, and can, if we need help, look for help. I remember with one of my pregnancies, the first pregnancy, I think I was speaking to my mom on day 4, is that the day that you're meant to get the baby blues? And I literally, I had been running on adrenaline and I'd been cleaning the whole house and I was great and everything. Day 4, I dropped. Back in the day, we used to use the Milton buckets of sterilizing fluids, and I dropped it on the floor and the world could have ended. I was in bits. I'm so worthless. I can't even sterilize. And I mean, it was literally just there for show because I was feeding and I had the breast pump that wasn't going to work at that stage anyway, but it was literally there because that's what mums do. They have a sterilizing, you know, that's what you do. That's what you buy. And I remember phoning my mom and my mom just said, don't worry about it. Everyone gets this release on certain days, but if it continues, we'll talk about it then. And she said, put it this way, you won't have to wash your kitchen floor. And I just laughed, and it was just that release. But if I hadn't have phoned her and said, I'm useless, I can't do this, and she hadn't said that to me, that it's normal, that everyone feels some degree of something, I don't know where I could have spiraled. So I guess what I'm saying is be honest and nip it in the bud.
Definitely.
Don't try. And, you know, your cape that you wear as a superhero is the cape of asking for help if you need it and being honest, I think.
Definitely.
Anyway.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. So guys, if anyone out there would like to get in touch with Allie, I have her Instagram details here. We will put it down in the comments below. Allie, ALLIE.ATKO is the handle. Is that what we say on Instagram, or is that Twitter? I don't know. But you can find her and we'll drop the link down below in the comments. Allie, thank you so much for your openness. It's gonna help people that, you know, even just listening to this thinking, okay, I've got this is fine, you know.
Oh, thank you. No, thank you very much for having us. As I say, the main reason that I wanted to do this, that I wanted to do the book, was just so that, you know, if there's any other ladies out there that feel the same, sometimes just being able to say, you know what, me too, is enough to get us going and get us reaching out to somebody else. And if there's one person today that does that, then, you know, then I'm pleased and I've done my job. So.
That's absolutely amazing. And we will get the book, another plug. It's Love Thy Body, Real Life Stories, Volume 1. There will be a Volume 2 that the authors are actually currently writing, I believe. And it came out on Kindle Monday week, and we hit number 1 by 10 o'clock in the morning. I couldn't believe that. It was like, what? And there's 23 stories from 23 amazing women about all kinds of subjects. I think there's something in there for anyone. I'm reading through it now and I can relate to so many other things. So it really is a great book, and it's out on paperback now as well. So grab a copy. Allie, thank you so much. Guys, thanks for joining us. We will check in with you next Wednesday at 8 p.m. for more on The Plus Side. Thanks.
Bye.